Bonjour. On va remettre un peu de vivant dans le système parce que franchement,
A bit of life in the system. Okay, the fact that the climate is changing on Earth, who cares if there are no human beings?
Donc cet humain dans la biodiversité.
Why? Human beings in biodiversity.
Ça y est. C'est quoi la biodiversité?
What is biodiversity? The question is asked very often. In 2010, the United Nations dedicated the year to biodiversity. Now, it's not just a catalogue or a list of species. What do we know today? I chaired for 7 years the Museum of Natural History in Paris. There are 2 million living species which are known. Bacteria, small microorganisms, fungi, etc. Biodiversity is the living fraction of nature. There's nature on Earth, and the living fraction appeared later, 3.85 billion years ago, after nature was created. Life appeared in the ancestral ocean. Ocean gave birth to life. I'm going to describe 3 ecosystems. I am a sailor, so 1 drop of seawater, wherever you take it on Earth, you will have the same findings. Again, there are not oceans, there is 1 ocean. There's a single ocean, and there are seas. Everywhere you go, 11 millimoles of potassium in seawater, 450 millimoles of sodium everywhere, in every sea and ocean. Here we have protists lightened up by molecular probes, millions of bacteria per drop of seawater, and billion viruses. This is everywhere. It is the biodiversity of oceans. We are familiar with 250,000 living species in the ocean. Second ecosystem. A spoonful of earth. Earth is absolutely essential because this is where plants are grown by farmers. 23% of all the species known on Earth are in the soil. 2.5 tons bacteria for a nectar, 3.5 tons of fungi, which are absolutely ignored. Dust mites, worms, and nematodes, and even tardigrades, whom I am particularly attached to. So the soil is very rich in biodiversity, and if I were to sequence seawater, it would be different, but on soil, it's like that. Third ecosystem, often forgotten. This is us. This is the digestive tube of a baby at birth. Now, all here, girls and boys alike, we were once babies, newborn babies. When a mother carried a baby 9 months in her womb, when the baby is born, the first contact he will have with life will be the bacteria contained in his mother's vagina. And the baby will be contaminated, in the good sense of the term, by his mother's bacteria. A human baby will take 2 years to develop his own flora. And nowadays, because we eat junk food and we use antibiotics haphazardly, we have changed our intestinal flora. A large part of our current diseases is due to that. 300 new diseases have developed in France ever since 1940. Some ocean, some soils, and a baby. Now, how to defend biodiversity is in front of ministers. And I show them the slide and I say, oh, look how beautiful it is. And they all cry. And I found some of those animals in Guadeloupe. And I tell them, this is biodiversity. We've got to rescue biodiversity. And they'll say, yeah, we're going to help you. But biodiversity is this as well. And people say, oh my God, this is ugly. And members of parliament say, we have no money. We can't really rescue things that look like that. Well, we rescue everything that looks good and looks nice and is attractive. And what is ugly is not rescued. We have to rescue rats. Look at the one at the bottom left-hand side. This is a naked mole rat. It lives in Kenya in underground galleries. And this thing is so ugly that nobody would do anything to save the animal. And in 2005, we discovered that this animal never develops a cancer. It lives for 50 years without cancers, and all of a sudden it became fashionable in scientific research. Well, that's biodiversity at play. For a Frenchman, this is exactly what we like in terms of biodiversity. A Frenchman or a French woman loves wine, bread, and cheese. And everything on this table belongs to biodiversity, except for the nickel contained in the spoon and in the fork and knife and the glass in the bottles. Everything else is biodiversity. So we live, we swim in biodiversity. Biodiversity is absolutely essential. We are biodiversity. And let me tell you that all of you, we have 10 times more bacteria in us than anywhere else. We want to show you some animals that we have started breeding among the 3 million species of animals that we know. Now, human beings started developing, and you have a demographic curve on the right-hand side here. And the growth of human demography was connected with big inventions. Recently, I went to Africa, and I looked at the big African cats, and I saw a lion who attacked a buffalo, and obviously after the lions had finished, the hyenas came, and then the vultures. They all took a little bit of the meat, and for a long time, life was difficult for us on Earth, and there were only a few of us. And then we developed arrows and bows, and we started killing animals, and we had access to food. We killed the predators. Then we developed villages, towns, roads, black powder. Black powder, that was an evil invention. What do we do now with black powder? And then the wheel to carry heavy weights, vapor, steam machines, vaccines, plastic, antibiotics, computers. This explains why all of a sudden the demographic curve shot up. Ever since I was born, the population on Earth has been multiplied by 3, and I'm not that old, which led to competition. The first paper published was this one. Can we avoid a total collapse of global civilization on Earth? 2 years ago, earlish. And many other papers, scientific papers, even the Pope wrote it in his encyclical. It's the first time that I mentioned the Pope in my biography. And finally, all these papers showing that human beings are the biggest predator, possibly even preparing the 6th extinction crisis. How do we prepare for that? Look here, India, at a time when nobody talked about environmental friendliness or political defense of the environment. Sri Aurobindo said in 1915 that man, impacting on Earth, created a development capacity. And he said if humankind wants to survive and preserve its well-being, it must radically change the human nature. So how do we move from our current activities to something which is going to make us change? Everywhere I go, people say, we have to change. How do we change? How do we do it? Economic data show it's difficult. This is Ström's work. He was on the screen a few minutes ago. The economists tried to adjust their models to ecology, and the other way around, it wouldn't work. Nature has been around for 4 billion years. Nature does not produce any waste. We produce waste. We invested waste. Nature can do everything, and that's why we have to draw inspiration from nature. People who are poor want to be rich, and those who are rich want to remain rich. So how do we achieve that? Our politicians have been elected for 5 years. They can do nothing. In classical economy, nature does not have any value or worth. It's only the human work that gives it a worth. And how do we move from an anthropocentric system to a cooperative system? How do we manage common goods, and how do we allow southern countries to develop and catch up? An ecologist like me does this work. There are ecosystems, marine and coastal, continental ecosystems attacked by human activities, being destroyed because human activities pollute, overexploit, disseminate, and the changing climate is not helping either. Once we have not destroyed entirely an ecosystem, we see it rebound because of resilience. And it will come back to a state that is more or less similar to the initial state. But that's the whole debate. Are our ecosystems structured well enough to be resilient in front of our threats? 7 plagues in ecologic crisis. Agricultural productivism, that can be changed. Shortage of drinking water, that can be changed. Fishes going away, that can be changed. Deforestation, that can be changed. Collapsing biodiversity, that can be changed, and toxic pollution everywhere, that can be changed. This is hope. I'm not desperate. I'm full of hope. I'm just saying that we have to think differently and live differently. Climatic change is on its way. It's too late. We should have done something earlier. So now all we can do is try and limit the damage, mitigate the damage, and adjust human beings to a changing climate. And I'll mention Edgar Morin, whom I love, and he said some time ago, Earth is a spatial vessel with 4 engines: science, technique, economy, and profit. And each of the engines can be very beneficial for humanity or detrimental. And how do we use them? We all read and listen to the radio and talk to our neighbors and exchange opinions. And the likely scenario is catastrophic. But he added, I'm an optimist, and yet unlikely things have happened in human history. You never know what the future is going to be like, what the future has in store for you. So we have a gloomy future, but we can prevent it from ever happening. But we have to fight for that. We have to fight much more than we are fighting. We never know what future has in store for us. And as Sri Aurobindo said, we need a metamorphosis, a deep metamorphosis, which is unpredictable. We don't know what is going to happen. We don't know how we're going to change. We need more awareness, more conscience. We need a human, planetary awareness. Our name is Homo sapiens. We are Homo faber. We know how to make. We Homo demens. We're crazy. We're lunatics. I mean, look at what we're doing every day. We're not yet Homo sapiens. We're not wise enough. Can we become wise enough in this century with all the questions that have been raised for the last 2 days? That is the question. So if we do nothing, we know what's going to happen. We talk about it every day on television. I went to Africa recently with Ségolène Royal, the minister. We spent 2 weeks in Austral Africa countries. They have been struck by climatic changes. Rivers like Zambeze have no more water. It's not raining enough, and they don't know how to water the wildlife. Agricultures are fleeing, going to the towns or around the towns, and they don't know what to do because it doesn't rain. And the whole population is northbound. Between Africa and Europe, there are 13 kilometers, 1 billion people, 2 billion very soon in Africa. And we have to help them stay at home, feel well at home, so they don't try to run away from their countries. This is what we have to do. I'll conclude by talking about 2 meetings that I organized, one in the museum, the other one in the Collège de France. The only question is, can the human being adjust to himself? What is it that we're looking at? Denial, cheating. Carl Fromm said you can't win the Tour de France without taking doping. Well, if we accepted no doping, maybe the riders would go more slowly, but they would still win. So we have to change wisely in a smart way. We need to share more. We need to be very humble. There is a lot of arrogance around, and we have to love each other much more.